Protecting the rights of Americans veterans. It's a theme that is continuous throughout not only the community, through our government, and at home, where many people have loved ones that are either active duty or have returned from military duty. And I think it's an important topic to have a discussion about ensuring the rights of every American veteran. And I don't think that it's something that should be taken lightly, and I hope that I can touch the subject with some insights on some of the major concerns and the growing problems that are out there with the Veterans Administration, with some of the nonprofits like the U.S. Vets, and some of the other agencies that are partnering, and whether or not the money, the taxpayer money and the funding, and what the intention of the programs are supposed to be, which is to uplift, empower, and help veterans move along and transition into life. And there's some really deep concerns throughout the community that need to be addressed. There's quite a homeless population of veterans. There's quite a growing homeless population of female veterans. And in Hawaii particularly, a lot of it has to do with social and especially economical hardships. And yet the places that are handed large federal funds and given the vendor, I guess you would say it, given the services to be the vendor, a lot of times don't have oversight and monitoring that really should be a common practice. Not only that someone goes in and looks at the accounting and the books, but that the services that are supposed to be provided are not ambiguous and obscured, that the help that the grants and the funds were written for is really being provided, and the veteran is getting a boost up, not a kick in the pants. So I thought it was really important to talk about, you know, is the top, which is General Shinseki, the Veterans Administration, are they doing everything they should be to make sure that there's accountability, transparency, and monitoring of our federal funds that have been distributed to nonprofits and other organizations to take care of the veterans? And myself, I've come across a lot of concerns and issues, and I'm very concerned that when you file a complaint and your civil rights have been violated, that the vendors are allowed to self-investigate themselves. They're allowed to say that they've done an investigation, they've closed a case, and it's this whole concern of where is the person's rights? Where is the rights to a just investigation, a full and proper investigation? And where is the oversight? And where is it that the Veterans Administration and General Shinseki is allowing for there to be the proper oversight that would make sure that an investigation is occurring? So I know for a fact myself, with some complaints that have been filed, that the vendors are continuing to harass and retaliate against the people that filed the complaints. And we're really starting to see a broken system that speaks to a bigger problem, when at a time that the veteran is supposed to be uplifted, instead the veteran is retaliated and harassed for just asking for the proper services and the proper protocol that should occur to help someone empower and become more self-sufficient, especially at a time when they're already facing hardships. And usually the reason someone comes into a program is because they're needing the help, that things aren't all going right for that person. And to have the double duty of services that are supposed to be provided aren't. Case in point, at the U.S. Vets, it's supposed to be a career development and towards permanent housing, but they've gotten really petty in their actions, and they'd rather scrutinize what time you're leaving, what time you're going, while the services to create career development, whether the person is trying to get back into the workforce or find a job that allows them better income towards permanent housing, that you would instead nitpick at the person and always say, well, we're getting that in order. It'll be pretty soon. We're a new program. We quite don't have the manpower yet to provide the services. Then I say, why did you even open the program? Why would the program be allowed to start? And why would General Shinseki and the Veterans Administration themselves allow a program to start that doesn't have standard operating procedures, doesn't have their curriculum and their people in place to ensure and provide veterans with quality services? This is a $28.4 million grant that was divided between approximately 30 different facilities and vendors across the United States. And it's just sort of mind-boggling how so much obscurity in the management of the funds and the services. There seems to be no oversight. When you ask and you file a complaint and your civil rights have been violated and you're asking for due process, that there's no one there to hear or follow up, and then the vendor is allowed to be the one investigating themselves. And then you're reassured, or supposed to be reassured, that everything is being done to make sure that the person's rights are upheld. And so I know this topic might be a little bit different than what most people are used to me talking about, but this is a very important topic when you have people, veterans, that are on the street, don't have adequate services, are committing suicide, start using alcohol and drugs, and really lose their self-worth. It's a big concern. A lot of people say, you know, our Vietnam veterans still haven't gotten proper services. There was an article in last Sunday's paper, I believe it was the 24th of March, over 500,000 backlog cases just for disability. And it seems like everything has been clumped together for the veterans, in that if you don't have a mental health concern or a disability, but you're just really a self-sufficient veteran that might have had some economic hard times, that there's not a program for you to help you with your career development or your business. I'm a business owner. I'm a veteran woman business owner, and yet when I go and try to get services, it's always clumped with, well, you need to have a mental health concern, or you need to have a disability, or you need to go and get a 9-to-5 job. There's no standalone programs that are helping veterans with their needs. They say that they care about your needs and they want to know what your needs are. But in fact, when you get there and they reassure you, yes, come, we understand who you are, what you're trying to do, but when you get there, you find out that the services aren't there. and that it's really a micromanagement, and they're wanting to lump you into a category of post-traumatic stress or military sexual trauma, drug use, and alcohol, when in fact there's a lot of veterans that are contributing to society every day in a positive way, working, striving towards the sustainability, and yet look down upon that there must be something wrong with them. You know, and I think this is a injustice, that when the Veterans Administration can neglect in oversight and management and monitoring of their vendors to make sure that the services that are supposed to be there that uplift the veteran are instead a micromanagement of punishment and disparity and despair. And I hope that others out there start to really look at this. I hope that someone listens. You know, I'm being told regularly that no one at the top listens by the vendor and the administrator of the U.S. Vets. The YWCA, that's supposed to empower women, has turned their back on several female veterans as a group that's supposed to uplift and prevent racism. I've continued to been plagued by racism, discrimination, and there's no one, no advocate, no justice, no one saying, we're looking at this and we hear you. And this is a concern, and we want to make sure, and we're sorry for what's happening. And it goes all the way back to the meat of things. Veterans were being served expired meat that is more than 4 months old. This is a program that's $28.4 million. How can you justify giving old meat, expired meat that could have bacteria? I'm not a germ warfare expert, but you know, what is the justification when that's the best you can do for your veterans? Is especially female veterans, give them old sodas that are a year old. This is what you're doing, and yet when someone, the chairperson of the U.S. Vet clients, brings it out, and all you can do is go back and look at videos. This is what our time management is, to see who told about the rotten meat, you know, who told about the workforce program that is not happening because you're not sure what your funding is, and you just started your program, and so you don't know if you can bring the Barbers Point person to Punahou, and so you folks just need to wait. You just need to wait for your services. And yet, if you walk in the door and forget to sign in, we're going to penalize you. If you don't come down for the arts and crafts, we're going to penalize you. If you want to tell your story and you're out in public and the group is there, they're going to tell you that you don't have the right. They're going to take away your rights to freedom of speech, freedom of press. It might seem like little nitpicking, and it might be hard to follow, but I would hope that at the top, that General Shinseki, the OIG, the Office of the Inspector General, and President Obama and his administration would listen to what I'm saying. It's part of only a microcosm of bigger issues. I've been told by how many people that there's funding concerns with out at Barbers Point, the U.S. Vets, with money and gift cards and other things that was intended for the veterans is misplaced, and they don't know where it is. $8,000 misplaced, you don't know where it is, and yet I'm being scrutinized. Just thing after thing, no separation between church and state. When you're told that there's a whole container of clothes for women, and you know you have women veterans coming off the streets with nothing to wear but only the clothes on their back, and you deprive them the opportunity to get those clothes for weeks, and yet you hurdle everyone up and rush them off to a religious, to a church to separate and work and pass out clothes for a garage sale, but yet to get them out to the donations that people gave, thinking that this is going to go to the veterans, just sits there. And it's just something, I think the funding, the accounting, these things need to be looked at. There needs to be accountability. And I would hope that the Veterans Administration is listening and that the complaints that are filed are taken seriously and properly and fully investigated. It speaks to a bigger concern that if this is the best we can do for our veterans, then no wonder the ones coming back from the front lines are at a loss to know how to integrate back into society. And I would really hope that someone would say, I want to look at this, this is important. We don't feed our veterans food that's 4 months old, meat that's expired. I mean, you could throw it like a shot put. It's not healthy. I can't imagine. We had the governor come to our facility, and they created quite a spread for him, and there was no 4-month-old meat. He had fresh, wonderful steak and shrimp and wine glasses, champagne glasses, valet parking, and so the money and the doors were opened for him, and he didn't have to worry where he was going to park. They had valet service and people with ties and catering, champagne glasses, and it made me sick to my stomach. I couldn't even eat watching this whole episode, watching our state representatives come down for their photo opportunities. Tulsi Gabbard came down to the U.S. Vets facility for the women at the YWCA. Never bothered to interact with any of the veterans and ask us, how are we doing? Do we need some help? How's the management? How's the program? But she stood there for her photo opportunity. And even when I filed a complaint to her, it turns into privacy. Well, we got to have you sign some privacy, and we want to know, what is it you want us to do for you? I want you to do the right thing for me. That's what I want you to do. I want you to make sure that the programs that are out there aren't violating my rights and creating more harm to me. That what is supposed to be done is done. How can you stand in Washington and say you care about veterans when more and more veterans are on the street, more and more veterans are homeless, programs are failing? And I said this to the governor. I said, you're going to continue to have failures in these programs as long as you let women veterans stand on the sidewalk, as long as you let other veterans be on the streets trying to figure out where they're going to put their head. It has nothing to do with they've done something wrong or something's wrong with them. That's a misnomer, and it's really hurtful to so many people, and it's insensitive, and I just can't imagine living in a society where if you're homeless, you're looked upon as you're a dirty rag, something's wrong with you, you must be doing something wrong. I'm homeless, I've been homeless for a while, and I work every day with world leaders. I'm continuously contributing to society. I'm not on drugs, I'm not on alcohol, and yet I have to hear the stigma from the legislatures, from Congress, from city council on, well, if those homeless people would quit doing drugs and alcohol, Maybe we might do something for them. If they'd quit disturbing the tourists and making things look so bad for the tourists, is this really all the better we can do for our fellow person? I mean, it doesn't even have to be a veteran. Is this just all the better we can do for anyone? I'm really concerned when we have a society that is more important about the cash returns on investments, when you have CEOs and COOs that are more concerned about their fundraisers and how they're going to look in their next photo opportunity than whether or not a program is having successes, whether or not the people that you're supposed to do career development with are finding the solutions to sustain themselves, to be business owners, to find gainful employment. But what I'm seeing is the people that were working, their hours are decreased. The ones that some have quit their jobs, some have left the program. We had one incident of a young lady having to go back to homelessness. And this is a reservist that got called on to active duty, had to literally become homeless because the program didn't allow for her situation of not coming back in 3 nights. She's going on active duty. You got to become homeless. And this person literally was banging her head against the wall. And it's these things that, as hard, as ugly as they might be, you know, it's the meat of it, the expired, rotten meat that if we don't talk about it, if I don't talk about it, then where's our measure and gauge of the true performance? And, you know, it's not just about spending the money, it's about providing the services. So if you're getting your paycheck, if you're the clinical supervisor sitting back there and getting your paycheck, and you're the case manager and the program coordinator, you know, you need to have some compassion for people. They came to you because they were already having a hard time and a rough time. They don't need to be categorized as mentally health concerns or on drugs or on alcohol. And even if they were, you know, maybe their situation provided that has driven them towards that. You don't kick someone when they're down and create more hardship and more burdens that hinders people and create more despair and disparity. It's an injustice, and I would hope that we can start to find more compassion for our fellow person and say that we want the programs to run right. We want the services to be there. It shouldn't serve a church. You know, a church shouldn't get help before the veteran. These are veteran women that needed clothes. They needed the things to make them feel like they have a roof over their head, not to be accused of being thieves and drug addicts and have to be monitored constantly and have to go and rewind videos to see, did you maybe take an extra piece of bread? Did you take a creamer to put in your coffee? The services, I'm just really concerned if this is the best we can do for our veterans. I'm asking you, General Shinseki, the Veterans Administration, you have my complaints. You've gotten my words for help. I've appealed how many times, and I'm appalled that you continue to allow the retaliation, the discrimination. And I ask again that you do your job. Follow up on the vendors that you have given this money to and have allowed to come in and provide services. Make sure that your veterans are being empowered, not disempowered. Investigate a complaint. If not, it's an injustice. How can you let the vendor self-investigate? What gives the right of the vendor to tell the complainant that no one at the top cares. No one is listening, and no one is going to do anything. I appeal to you. I have written, I'm about out of avenues. Where does the hope come from? If we don't have an advocate at the top, if the money is handed over, but the services aren't there, and the disempowerment and the retaliation, and if I share my complaints with you that I'm treated more harshly, this is really, really disempowering, and I would hope that the system would do better, that the people would do better. These programs are important. Homelessness is only going to get bigger. Our economy, if we don't take a serious look at things and start to do better for our citizens and find ways to help veteran business owners, homeless people, people that need a helping hand up, if we don't truly give them that helping hand, then we're going to continue to see more failures in programs where people drop out of the program, voluntary or involuntary, and commit suicide. And I wouldn't want to be the one to knock on the door of the family member of the veteran with the Purple Heart to say, we burnt our bridges, we weren't able to help him. It saddens me to have to remind everyone about the old meat, the dead meat, the expired meat that they served women veterans for months and can't even apologize for. The soda, it wasn't only served to the U.S. veteran women, it was served to whoever was at the YWCA at that time. And it's appalling that these behaviors continue, and I hope that I can do a show where I can say there's been some justice. We had a full and proper investigation, and there's light at the end of the tunnel for our veterans. I thank you for letting me share this with you. Thank you.